will go to Ioana Bauer from eLiberare. And I would like to ask you, we've heard yesterday how human trafficking was described, I think, as a two-front battle for typical countries of origin, in the sense that it needs to address trafficking taking place within the state, but also address the fact that women from that country may be pulled to typical countries of destination, depending on the legislation. How would demand legislation help victims from Romania? Demand legislations, for example, in Sweden or Germany or France? Please.
Thank you so much for the question, Eddie. And also, I just want to join my fellow panelists in thanking the Swedish presidency for actually including the topic of demand and prioritizing it. I think this is a very important message. And to go back to this division of countries of origin, destination, transit, right? I think that in the beginning, when this separation was made, the geopolitical situation looked very differently, and it was meant to be an aid to those of us who are working in the field of anti-trafficking. But right now, if we look at the current situation, I think that a lot of times this division ends up becoming a trap rather than a help. And to your point of discussing the situation in Romania, for example, Romania is a neighboring country to Ukraine, as all of you know. We have seen over 140,000 refugees who have come and settled in our country, and we have seen millions crossing the border, with some of them spending less than 48 hours in the country. So I think we're very much also a transit country. We're seeing a lot of third country nationals who are coming and in a way, this whole mindset of, are we a source country or are we a transit country, are we a destination country, this very much dictates the priorities, and it very much dictates the strategy. So I really want us to move away from this trap, as I said, of actually using the source, destination, transit country as a possibility to pass responsibility from one country to another, and just use it when it comes to the different ways it can help. It can help us. Also, I want to thank my panelists, because in a way, with everything that was said before, just during this panel and what was said yesterday as well, I think we have some themes, right? We have some themes when it comes to legislation. Demand, proactive identification, clear referral pathways. I think we need them standardized, and we very much need to figure out how to address them in a very unitary way. At the level of the union, what we want is not to create different spaces in which being exploited in that particular country becomes a luck factor. There are countries in which a victim of trafficking or a person who's being exploited in prostitution ends up being identified and referred to services, while in other countries that same victim under the same circumstances ends up being fined, which creates a lot of double standards in a union that's supposed to be equitable for everyone and for all victims of crime. So we really need to take that into consideration as well. Also, we need congruency when it comes to identification thresholds and indicators. We're at a great time in our history. We've heard that finally we're looking at revising legislation that leads the way at the European Union level, right? The anti-trafficking directive. It took us over 10 years to get to this point, and we must not miss this opportunity. I was looking at the 2011 text that actually talks about the directive and the European Union creating indicators at the level of the union when it comes to what does sexual exploitation mean, what does human trafficking mean. And it's still just an intention, although we're here 12 years later, right? So as we're looking at revising the indicators, we've heard from survivors, we've heard from law enforcement now, we've heard from prosecutors, we're hearing from practitioners. There is a huge need to actually understand how European regulation can help standardize the national frameworks when it comes to referral pathways, when it comes to legislation on demand, and when it comes to indicators and identification thresholds, and assistance to victims, which is another point that was made here. And I love the connection between how do we make sure that in our legislation for demand we include exit services and we include the path to assistance. That's very clear, and it's not conditioned by cooperation with law enforcement or anything else.
Thank you very much. Thank you.